Todd Sloan, welcome to the podcast, mate.
Man, thank you so much for having me. How you going?
I am very, very well. I'm super excited to see you. I was lucky enough to catch up with you in the Gold Coast the other day, but mate, it feels like you're one of my OG podcast guys from way back in the day. I've switched my podcast like 10 times since I started because I've got different businesses and stuff. But man, I
Yeah.
just absolutely love where you've taken pizza and property and doing the newsletters and everything else that you're doing at the moment. It's absolutely insane. I was just commenting on your video quality beforehand. You've got the lights in the background and you can change the colors, mate. You were all over it. How's the podcasting journey been so far?
Podcasting's been absolutely, yeah, it's been insane how things have changed. Like it still does feel like yesterday you and I were chatting and I was in my mum's shed still sleeping in her spare room. Like, and I think there was her and my girlfriend listening to the show and that was it. But it's changed a little bit since then.
Mate, you've done so well. Congrats.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. And speaking of doing well, game plans. I mean, you guys have taken things to the next level. Like this has gone from, hey, yeah, this is kind of cool to like just about everyone in the country's bloody using your service.
Yeah, it's one of those, I don't know, it's just been one of those roll-on effects of, a couple of really key people have been using it and found the value and passing on to clients. And then, I don't know, it just almost feels like if someone's not using it, one of their clients is asking for it and then they don't know what it is, so they inquire. But, yeah, it's been phenomenal, man. It's been such a good journey, and there's been incredible people in the space like yourself who have just really helped me get through that. And the biggest thing I've learned is that it's all about networking and getting to know people and genuinely being caring for them and understanding how they are and what they're doing and how their business is going and seeing where we can help and fit in. So it's been such a good learning curve, not only like from a business point of view, but just understanding different contexts of how the economy works and all that sort of stuff. But I'm rambling on anyway, as I usually do.
I was just about to ask, and I know this is your show, so forgive me if I'm turning the tables a little bit, but how has it actually changed the way that you look at plans now? Because I'd imagine from when it started, was 3 years ago, it's a little while ago now, to now, like, has it made you also grow as an investor, just being privy to like such volume of it?
Yeah, 100%. I think like I had this philosophy when I first started to just go out and buy, and like just capped my borrowing capacity for the sake of doing it. Whenever I had enough deposit, I would go out and buy again. And I hindered myself in that way because I'd buy subpar assets as soon as I could. And the whole concept of the planning side of things was, well, if I was just to hold on for a little bit longer, save a little bit more, wait till my income increased a little bit more, I could get into a much better asset. And so,
Yeah, okay.
that learning curve for me is what's helped me sort of build this platform and walk other clients through it, and going through that process and walking them through it as well has been sort of reconfirming. So one thing, the biggest thing that I've learned, and it may or may not be released yet, but we've just talked about this on Todd's podcast, Pizza and Property. So go check it
Yeah.
out if you haven't. But just, everyone is so unique and everyone is so different and has their own goals in life. And so it's really understanding what that is rather than this generic, go out and build this massive portfolio. Everyone wants to do the same. Everyone wants something different. And so it's just understanding that.
Yeah, cool, man. That's that. I was kind of interested to see how you'd answer that because I wasn't sure if it was like the strategy had changed, but it sounds like it's just more so made you still same strategy, but patience sounds like the big takeaway that you've kind of taken.
Patience and, human emotion is what drives property, and human emotion is, what builds the market. So it's really just understanding the individual and what drives them and what makes them emotional, I guess.
Yeah, cool, man.
But
Okay,
anyway,
I'll stop taking over. Yeah.
no, that's all right. All good. You've navigated to the property front really well, so I like it, mate. I've been fortunate enough to see you on your journey and walk through all your journey from day dot to now. I love all the renovations and the videos and stuff you do. If you guys haven't seen it, go and check out Todd's YouTube. He's got all the old renovation videos on there, which is awesome. But it's been so nice to see you sort of build out your portfolio and watch you on your journey. I think now you've been through a fair bit of experience. What do you feel your philosophy on building a portfolio out would look like?
Like if I was to do it again, or from what I've learned doing it so far?
I suppose from all of the experience that you've got today, if you could go back and rebuild your portfolio or have a concept of what building a portfolio would look like, how would you describe it?
How would I describe it? That's different. Something I definitely do different is I would have saved more. I was still shaking several bad habits when I started. So that would have made a huge difference. My LVR, whilst it's in a reasonable place, would be in a much healthier place if I had have actually just had bigger deposits. But how would I describe it? Like for me, it's just always been, I started on such a low income, then I had to manufacture the equity. Like there was no like savings in the very beginning. But then as I started growing as an investor, because I was a sales agent then, my skills as a sales agent started growing as well. And as you'd know, I'm pretty sure your dad was or is an agent.
Yep.
I think.
He
Yeah.
is. Well, he was, and now he manages.
There you go. Like it's one of those things that you can eat beans on toast if you're not that good at it, or you can be making gazillions of dollars if you're really good at it. I was somewhere in the middle. But I got there after probably about 2 or 3 years of doing it. It took me a while until I actually took flight. Then once I did, that's when it started making a lot more sense, and I could stop with more of the regional stuff that was pretty much all I could afford, and get into some better sort of assets with more uplift potential, really.
Yeah, I love that, and it's not common that I don't think I've had like a renovation specialist on the podcast, but not someone who's like on the ground always doing the renovations themselves. And again, if you haven't checked out Todd's videos, go check him out because he really gets his hands dirty. But talk us through the renovation approach. I think that's awesome because you're right. Like if you've got a low income and you have to be forced to manufacture that equity, did you feel like did you have the skill sets beforehand to go out and do all this renovation stuff, or did you just learn as you went and just like tried to do as much as you could along the journey?
I learned as I went, and looking back on it now, it was a silly way to do it. Like I probably should have taken more time to learn beforehand, or to condense the learning. That would have actually made a lot more sense. But I was just so fortunate. The very first property I bought was so cheap that it was literally just don't buy coffee that week and you can pay the mortgage. Like it's going to sound like a joke, but the first one was $62,500. It was basically free, and now it's probably worth about $250,000, and that was only in 2017 I bought it. But it was so cheap that it took me a year. And again, going back, I could probably do the whole thing in 2 weeks now with the skill set that I've got now. But at the time, I would just learn. I'd literally watch YouTube videos and be like, oh, yeah, that looks easy. Let's give that a go. And my rule was just always, if it can kill me, then do not do it. Like I never did my own Sparky work. I didn't do stuff that you like really need qualifications for in that setting. But otherwise, I just gave everything a go, which the benefit of that is then I started taking those skills to project number 2. Then project number 2 was a bit better, and then number 3, and then 4, and then 5, and then just kind of kept going. And now it's like one of the projects we did. It was I think early 2022, late 2021 even. That was a 10-day reno. We turned around a house. We're building a granny flat at the back. Already had another granny flat there. We renovated the granny flat that was existing and the front house in 10 days, and it was just me and my other half Bianca, which was. Like, it sounds cool, but at the time, it was like between sort of like 14, 15 sort of hour days, literally just 10 days straight. So between us, we did almost 300 hours worth of work in a 10-day period. So when you look at it that way, it's like, of course you got it done in 10 days. But that hurt. Like, you wouldn't want to do that all the time.
Yeah, that's full on, man. That's a big 10 days. Well done. And go Bianca. She's a machine.
She is a gun, that woman.
Yeah, she is. Is there like a specific reno deal or story that you want to walk us through?
One that I think was quite good was a more recent one, which is a 2 better. And the reason that I really liked this is because this was basically during the time where everything was picking up in the market still. So it was late 2022. Everything was very strong, still countrywide. Nothing was really going, actually I think there was some parts that were going down. No, sorry, I'll rewind. Sorry, late 2021, my mistake. Late 2021. Yeah, nowhere was going down late 2021. I was actually negotiating the deal as I was painting the wall of the one that I was just talking about in Brisbane. And it was about 9 o'clock at night, and I picked up this unit. It was in Adelaide, in a suburb called Morphett Vale. So Morphett Vale is kind of, it's that mix. Some parts are a bit lower socioeconomic. Some parts are just a bit more kind of like, let's say, standard, respectable blue collar. This was in more the standard, respectable blue collar kind of part. Picked it up for, I think it was 225 grand, and ended up renoing it for about 20 grand. Completely changed the whole look of it, ripped out a wall, opened everything up, and it ended up getting reval for, I think it was something like 330, and now it's probably worth closer to 400 and rents out for 420 a week. And it was just, the thing that I liked about it is it was at a time where, and I was an agent then, I was getting 10, 20, 30 offers on each property. So there was this part of me, I was just getting so sick and tired of missing out on deals. And then I still found one where the numbers worked. But for such a long time, I was putting in offers left, right, and center, and just nothing was working. I was just getting outbid by ridiculousness.
That's awesome. Well done. That's such a great renovation. I think it probably brings us back to that philosophy question. Do you still now, like if you're like sourcing a deal or looking for a renovation job or something like that, would you still hunt that sort of lower end of the market in an area where you can know you can bring up a lot of uplift, or have you done like a more expensive reno, and how's the experience been with that, or are you still focused on those the lower value assets?
Personally, I prefer the lower value assets. So I like it because that way as well, if times do end up getting bad, I mean, there's some people predicting proper doom and gloom. I think there's a bit of a trickle down effect where if you're in the penthouse, well, now you go to the 3-bedroom apartment, and the person in the 3-bedroom goes to maybe the 2-bed and the 1-bed and the so on and so forth until you're kind of out. And I think it doesn't flow upwards if times get tough. People are always going to need accommodation at more of an entry level. And I do want to emphasize as well, like they're certainly not like derelict kind of entry level. Like you don't feel unsafe rather, walking around. It's still a reasonable area. But I like it because it gives a good yield. But if I buy it right, then there's huge upside there. And I think if the numbers worked, like I'd do a reno in Double Bay. If the numbers worked and I could raise the capital for it, it's like, great, let's do that. It's just for me, I'm still not in a position to buy $11 million houses in Double Bay and renovate them. That's not my situation just yet. But I think that's where it all comes together is what's the goal? What's your current situation? Now find the asset that actually works for that.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I think if it's kind of like your bread and butter and you've done, I don't know, 7 of them or whatever it was up until today, like you know what's to come, you know what to expect, and at that lower value,
Yeah.
right? Something was to go wrong, it's not going to be like an enormous blowout that's going to throw everything up in the air. You've accounted for it and got some buffers sorted for it. So yeah, that definitely makes sense.
And mate, this month has been the worst. Like seriously, just to flip side to property invest. I don't want to talk anyone out of this, but like you said, I've got buffers in place. So as much as this is annoying, the money is sitting there. But I've had 2 ovens, 2 hot water services, a pool pump, and a toilet replaced. I think I've almost had $10,000 in maintenance come out just in the past month. And like I said, it's sitting there. It's accounted for. Like this kind of stuff happens, but it was just more that I keep getting phone calls, and now I see my property manager's number. I'm like, oh, what do they want? Like,
What's going to happen now? Yeah, it's annoying. It's a buffer, but it's also like 10 grand you could put in towards a deposit for another property as well. So a little
correct.
bit of
Yeah, definitely.
Is there anything in the portfolio that you would change if you could? Like, has it been like a massive mistake that you've made and held on to it, or that you've made and then got out of it for some reason? Is it like something that you would change, or something you would have done differently?
The regional one, and only the one that's like 3 hours away, proper regional. That's the first one, the 62,000, and I'm thankful I did it because at the time it was either that or earn more money. And the benefit of hindsight, I should have focused more on earning more money, getting better at my job, increasing that serviceability so I could have got more Metro Adelaide stuff at the time. Because like that one, the one with the pool pump just died the other day. I bought that for 212,000. That was in 2019. That's probably worth about 600,000 now.
Wow.
Like if I had have bought several of those instead and kind of gone that way, that would have been much better. I'm still thankful I started, because the 10 years prior to that, I was just that guy that read Rich Dad Poor Dad and gave unsolicited financial advice to everyone that just came from nowhere. But it was better that I took action, but benefit of hindsight would have changed the action.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm sure everyone would love a couple of those deals in their portfolio if they could. And you just can't pick it. It's the funny thing, right? Like you've repeated the same process for all of the renovations that you've done, like thereabouts. And there's only a couple of ones that do like exceptionally well and do crazy. We'd all love them in our portfolios, but Yeah, it's hard to do. So tell me, walk me through the transition. Like, I mean, I know you've always been in property as a sales agent, and then you started the podcast while you were still a sales agent. And I don't know,
Mhm.
you probably did it for 2 or 3 years or something before you stepped out. But when did that trigger for you go, I actually really, really enjoy doing the podcasting side of things, and I've built the portfolio, I've started the renovation. When did you go, okay, it's time for me to now step out and want to go hard and full time at this thing?
I think I'd always enjoyed it because I actually went to film school when I was younger. If you had met me when I was 17 years old, I always had a camera in my hand. Back when you actually had a separate video camera, not on your phone. And like I was like the Spielberg kid, and I was always filming skate videos. Like I was like a sponsored skater as a kid, and absolutely loved it. And then I went to film school, ended up actually dropping out because I didn't like it. And the thing that hit me was, if you it's a results based industry, very much like property. Right? If you want to be a surgeon, don't go to the school of hard knocks. You need to go to uni for that one. But if you want to be a filmmaker, doesn't matter how long you've gone to uni for. If you can make a good film, you can make a good film. People just care about the end result. And for me, so I started trying to actually produce the end result and just go, I'm just going to do this myself. Kind of worked. I won't go into the whole story of it, but that was always a passion of mine. And it was actually old mate Jack. Actually got to catch up with him again. So you know Jack,
Yeah, Jack,
not Hendo.
Gibbs, or whatever his
Yeah,
name is.
yeah. That's the one. Yeah, and he came around one day just for a beer, and I'd kitted out my mum's back shed because at this stage I'd realised I was spending too much money. It was like going to sacrifice mode, moving to mum's spare room, got to invest in property hard, all the rest of it. And I'd had like a TV on the wall, like an old telly that I had there, and I was like, "Hey, this is the property show. Like, what do you think?" And it kept stuffing up, and we just had all these technical difficulties. And it was actually Jack that said, well, "Why don't we just strip it back to just audio, and we'll just do it as audio to begin with, and then we can build on there, and maybe we'll add in some video and all the rest of it." And yeah, so we did that and settled on a name, and Pizza and Property was born, and it was definitely a passion project from the very beginning. And it wasn't probably until, I think it was until probably late 2022. Yeah, what is it now? No, it would have been earlier than that. It would have been early 2022. I keep forgetting what year it is. It's 23 now, isn't it? Yeah, early 20. Yeah,
That's probably been maybe not 12 months, but close to.
yeah, well, yeah. I reckon early 22 that I started looking at like the ratings just kept climbing and climbing. I was like, if this is what I'm doing from 5 a.m. to 8 before I go to work, what's possible? What extra things can I do? What more can I create with this if I actually go all in? And then I ended up buying a block of units in Cairns, and that was like a final little cash flow play. It's actually the only property I've ever bought that I haven't renovated yet. It is a renovator, but I've just leased it out as is right now. That one's actually done all right as well. That one I bought for $770. That's probably worth around probably just over one, mate. Yeah, 105, something like that.
Wow.
So it'd be nice to actually reno that and get a bit of the equity out. But right now, as you'd know, as soon as you throw in the PAYG, the banks are just like, you're invisible, and they don't want to lend you.
Yep, it's a tough one.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. What a journey, and I think it's such a nice progression from you being able to do it sort of part time. And like I know you used to grind. I used to call you in the middle of the day, and you had like 14 contracts in your hand, and you were recording a podcast at the same time, and then editing a video, and then creating cartoons on the desktop above you. Like
Yeah.
you're a real workaholic, man, and I love to see that you've brought that success of putting in all this time and effort to start and build the podcast, continued to do it, which consistency is always the most important thing, and then gone, you know what, I've stayed consistent, I can see the ratings continue to grow, and I'm just going to step out and go full time in it. And I think a lot of the listeners are sort of at that stage of potentially wanting to step out and start a business, but don't know how, or think that it's scary or intimidating just to step out and do something different. But if you can do it in a way where you transition out slowly over time, test the waters, see what works, see what doesn't, and then if everything's going well and working smoothly, you can ultimately make that step. It doesn't have to be this like hard sand in the line of quit my day job and go ham at this thing that I got no idea about. You can do it slowly, which has been so awesome to see, man. So well done.
Thanks, dude.
To end us off, I mean, I know there's 1,001 of them out there, but if you had like a favorite property one-liner, what would it be?
I think it's and I don't know if I'm butchering this. I'm pretty sure this is the actual quote. The best time to buy a property was yesterday. The second best time is today. And I think it's so true because it's so easy for us now, especially if you're listening to this and you're starting and it's like, oh, it's all well and good for you and Jordan. You started a while ago. But when Jordan and I were doing this originally, we used to look at the people that had started 5-10 years before that and go, oh, it's all easy for you. It's all relative, but it's just about getting started.
Yeah, getting your foot in the door. I love that quote. It's so important, and really important for today as well, in the current economic that we're going through, conditions that we're going through. It's like people almost second guessing themselves. Should I get in? Should I get out? It's funny. I did a live the other night, and we were going through the history of property and how it's grown over the last 30 years, and
Yeah.
one of the comments was like, how do you know that it's going to continue to grow at this rate moving forward? And I go, we had like a breakdown of every 5 years, let's say, a property being sold and what the growth was in between it. And I go, do you know, there's someone that asked that question when it sold in this year, when it sold in this year, when it sold in this year, when it sold in this year. And it's like, it's exactly what you said. Is like, it doesn't matter when you started or when you first started doing everything. People ask that question, but if you just look at how inflation and historical growth of property has gone over time, it's evident. The evidence there. It's 6.8% average growth rate over 30 years, and hopefully should continue at that rate over time. So it's a fantastic quote, mate, and I really appreciate you coming on. Thanks for your time, and I'll have to get you on again soon.
And thanks so much for having me.